Oh, happy Monday. Here we go for some more Q.B.L. Get my sound check real quick. Even though we know by now that that sound has been working with us, cooperating so very swell. But the time is Q.B.L. time, our favorite time, Kabbalah time. But the time is. There he is, and the sound works great. Awesome. Let's get our music playing. And I hope you're all having a marvelous start to your week. Or whenever it is you come across this, I hope that you are just smiling. There's a song in your heart, and there's a whatever else makes you happy. Zero, I'm so far. Peace, J.B.L. Peace to you and love to you. What's up, bro? Always good to see you. Once your goddess, we hope you is too, Jay. Thank you, for sure. Marvelous week for you and everyone, says Zero. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So we got this music rocking. We got, let's see, do I got my other checks in place? I'm pretty sure. I just need to make sure I can monitor this chat. And once your goddess says, I smiled when I saw you was live. Well, heck yeah. Thanks. You are just the sweetest. All right. So yesterday, for anybody who's tuned in on the last couple chapters, where we've gone over things like the Notericon, Tamura, and Gematria, that is definitely the type of stuff that will make your eyes glaze over. And a lot of it is because until you start doing that yourself, and again, making your own Kabbalistic correspondences, it's um it's gonna have that effect. So if somebody else can rattle off a whole list of their gematria connections, their ways that they've put mapped the tarot around on the tree, whatever, their life on the tree, and most likely it's just gonna, I mean, maybe in some ways you'll have some interest, especially if it's maybe a person you're up close with, you know pretty well. But for just somebody on the internet or even maybe an author from the past, it might seem a little more boring. Like it doesn't really make sense. It's a little confusing. It's a little stressful. But that's kind of the point. So to start us out today, actually, what I want to do is this book right here. I've told you many times, you want to get in touch with this man right here, Lon Milo Duquette. Zero right in the chat says, Lon Milo Duquette, share a birth date with me. And yeah, dude, yep, you and Lon have the same birthday. That's why you're both so amazing. I love you both so much. Welcome in, everybody just coming in. So Lon actually read this on, well, it was on Facebook originally, but there's a YouTube channel where he's read almost all of his books. You absolutely want to read this book, The Chicken Kabbalah of Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. This is definitely one of the best Kabbalah books I've read so far. But I'm going to read to you just a little parts from in it where he even says, so he says, now, the first thing you need to learn is that everyone's Kabbalah is uniquely their own. Your Kabbalah is not my Kabbalah or anyone else's. A personal Kabbalah is placed in your hands the moment you take up the study. It's alive and grows upon what you feed it. The more you learn, the more you use. No two students study or work the same. So see right there, and I've already said that to you a little bit, but I was going through this last night just because I was like, I swear he talks about that a bit, but I haven't read this, and I think the last time I went through this was at least a year ago. Zero says he is really great. Thank to you. I started looking his work. This is amazing. Thank you, Jay Baldell. Absolutely, I love you, Zero. I'm glad you did, man, because honestly, most anybody on here who taps in for this group, that's what you need to do is just go through Lon Milo Duquette's stuff, and you will just have so many questions answered so very quickly. You will see that what magic you have been doing that you've probably felt stressed out about, you don't really need to feel so stressed out about. You will benefit greatly. He's definitely one of the greatest living magicians. He's been doing magic a lot longer than almost all of us in this group have been alive. So you're gonna do yourself a big favor. Okay, let's see. Now here he also says he has a chapter also where he goes in on gematria, notericon, tamura, and here at the ends he says, "You know, dear friends, when all is said and done, it makes no difference how we rearrange or substitute our letters. It makes no difference if one number reveals another number or word or any of it, as long as all this helps us make a final connection, because at the end of the day it doesn't really matter what we've done, only that we did." So there you have it. So yeah, I think I said it in the stream yesterday that there's going to be a starting place for sure with Kabbalah, and that's what you'll find in like Dion's books, most all of these, where they're going to give you the initial place to start with it, to start understanding what it is, how it works, why it works, all of that. But after enough time and practice, and especially after like decades of it, your personal Kabbalah is, yeah, probably going to look nothing like, maybe, or even if it might look somewhat like, if not nothing at all like, what the standard Kabbalah looks like. So I wanted to do that to help clear up maybe some of the confusion from the last couple of chapters. And if you've just had any confusion from this book read in general. For the most part, I feel like he's actually been pretty easy to follow, and it's been a pretty solid book. But it's once you start getting into that gematria, all the letters and numbers stuff, that you can really start to feel very confused. So there you go. Now you know. And it's because I love you all so very much and want to see you succeed on your magical path, your spiritual path, your life path. I mean, that's what this is. This is all just part of life, right? It's like, and at the end of the day, it's like one of my favorite friends who has taught me magic had told me it's all BS, but some BS is useful. Okay, you guys. Now the yapping is zero. I don't know why for some reason on one of my screens it's on my phone recording here, it's not showing what you're saying, but I've got this other chat here and I can see what you're saying. So, but that's probably something to do with my settings. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But okay. So, Zero says every stepstone is valid. Yeah, most definitely. Some stepstones are just going to take you on a big old detour, though, that you might not have needed to go on, but that, at the end of the day, it's all still valid for sure. No, I think it's me, not you. You could, if you could try and we can see, but it's because I've seen other people who will pop in the chat, even if it's just some of the random people who pop in here, and it'll be the same where it's showing me these like I don't know, weird characters. One of them looks like Chinese or Japanese, but then there's also the English letter A. So I don't know if it's just because I don't know. But yeah, you could give that a shot and maybe it'll change it up. But see, I can see some of your other ones just fine, so hard to say for sure. Let's pull a tarot card real quick and then let's get into these final chapters of the book. Pull a tarot card to start our Monday, start our week, see how we're feeling, see what the energy is for finishing off this book and starting the week right there. Nice, 4 swords. Okay. So we already pulled 2 swords on this here. book read, the card of peace. Now, this card is known as truce. Crowley calls it truce. This is Jupiter in Libra. And this is going to be a double hit of Jupiter because this is also going to be tied here to the sphere of Chesed. And when we think of truce, that means that not necessarily that we have established peace, because truce and peace are a little different, even if they're kind of interconnected. But a truce means at the very least the fighting has stopped, right? These four swords all pointed inwards in the shape of a cross. So you could put these numbers of four elements, but a hidden fifth element here in the center of spirit. So maybe turn your mind inward on spirit. Make a truce with these four elements and the way they're glued together at the center through your spirit. And Kabbalah will certainly help us to start to do that. Cool. All right. Well, that is going to be wonderful for starting us out. Zero says, is really accurate to me right now. I feel like that. All right. Well, heck yeah. Awesome. I haven't been in my one Instagram account, so I got to go in there and see. I know you had sent me some messages, so I got to go check in on that. I hope you had a good weekend, though. And how's the volume on everything, by the way? Voice and music, is everything good, you guys? One True Goddess says, sounds great. All right, cool. Thank you. Appreciate your feedback and your help. All right, well, then we'll go ahead and get into this here book, huh? Jeez, it's already been 12 minutes of yapping. Nah, like I said, I wanted to help clear up some of that confusion because the numbers, letters, the rearranging, um, again, the point of it all is to help you to see the way that everything, even the things that seem like they have no connection at all, are actually connected. Um, and the way we, as we peel away all these different layers of numerical equivalents and everything, that underneath it all is the nothingness from which, well, ultimately the nothingness from which creation springs forth. So that unity, um which ultimately comes from the nothingness, right, from the zero. Shout out to you. And also he says, don't worry, Jay, about that. You will receive a surprise when you look in DMs. It is awesome. Sounds great. And the sound is good for him as well. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. And I'm looking forward to it. But okay, let's go ahead and get to going. So, chapter 9, of that which was and is and shall be. The word of sin is restriction. Love is the law, love under will. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. These words may sound strangely in your ears who hear them for the first time. And what have they to do with the Kabbalah and the tree of life? This little treatise would not be complete without some mention of the wonderful Kabbalistic correspondences to be found in Liber Legis, the Book of the Law, of the Aeon of Horus. You may never have heard of this book, yet since it is written therein, the law is for all, it is well that I should give you a brief glimpse of this matter. In order to do so, I shall apply myself to the study of its manifold mystery. Oh, I skipped a sentence. In order to do so, I shall be obliged to make some explanation as to how I came to apply myself to the study of its manifold mysteries. which have gradually been unfolded in such a marvelous manner. On March 21st, 1904, occurred what is known to the adepts as the equinox of the gods. That is to say, the advent of a new aeon and a consequent change of office in the great hierarchy which is engaged in the initiation of humanity on this planet. The old order changeth, and all things become new. About this time, under very extraordinary circumstances, Frater O.M., an adept of the AA, received a communication through what appears to have been a proto-human channel. This communication is known as Liber al Vallegis and consists of 220 verses divided into three chapters. The first chapter contains instructions from Nuit, Lady of the Starry Heavens. The second from Hadit, the inmost essential self of all. And the third from Ra Horquit, Lord of the Aeon. The full details of this communication will be given to the world in the proper manner, time, and place, and by the proper authority. In 1909, I, Achad, became a probationer of the great brotherhood known as the AA. And for some years I toiled at the great work, first under the guidance of one Frater P.A., and later under Frater O.M. Thus did I first contact this new current. In 1916, at the summer solstice, I underwent a great initiation, which showed in a certain way I was destined to fulfill one of the prophecies in Liber Legis in a most unusual and unlooked for manner. This was followed 18 months later at the winter solstice, 1917, by a continuation of the great initiation on another plane. The first dealt with the Sephiroth, and the second with the paths of the tree of life. Both led to an extraordinary unification of the whole tree in my consciousness. The initiation of 1917, and by this I do not mean of the lodge room kind, but one directed entirely by the masters of wisdom from other planes of being, resulted about a year later when time had enabled me to get a clear perspective of the event in my obtaining a certain Kabbalistic key to Liber Legis as prophesied therein, and this key was delivered to Frater O.M., who had by then become the Master Therion. So that's Aleister Crowley. This was the means of opening many doors. I'm going to restart that. This was the means of opening many of the doors of the palace, and was accepted as sufficient proof that I had certain work to do in connection with Liber Legis and the new Aeon. For myself, how could I doubt or avoid it, even if I would? I had aspired to the highest, and this was the result of my aspiration. This close tie with events, which time will show to be of unimaginable importance to all humanity. In Liber Legis, there is much which is entirely strange and at first repugnant. For 5 years, Frater O.M., who received it, endeavored to avoid his task of proclaiming the law to all. Yet such depths of wisdom were hidden in this book, such wonderful foreknowledge of events, that it proved itself to be unavoidable. Yeah, definitely. There's in the book of the law, if you haven't read it, which we're still going to do on this channel, don't you worry. There is some really wonderful things, and there's also a lot of just things that make you feel very confused and like what the heck is going on. It's very alien in that way, but they recommend you make it a habit to read it, probably at least once a year. It's short too, so that's an easy one to do once a year. And each and every time, as your understanding develops, as you grow, maybe different bits of wisdom will come out to you, because it is, well, like he's already said in here, a channeled text channeled through these three different Egyptian entities. And that third part, the Horus part, is usually the part that scares the living crap out of people because it's just really fiery warfare type of sounding stuff. And so that's one that for sure can turn people not just the other direction, but completely off of like Thelema and Crowley and all of that. And it can also be very easily misinterpreted. Zero says, I love that kind of books. Always give you insights every time. It's crazy. Yeah, definitely. Okie doke. So let's see where I was at. I think I was right about here. Yeah, all yet such. Yeah, he avoided to. Okay, so it is not my work to comment on this book. That has been wisely provided for in the book itself, but I do wish to point out that the Kabbalistic implications are simply marvelous, both in regard to the depths of the concealed meanings and the simplicity of the cipher when they are brought to light. Such statements as, nothing is a secret key of this law. 61, the Jews call it. I call it 8, 80, 418. But they have the half. Unite by thine art so that all disappear. Become perfectly clear and lucid once the key is found. And this is but one of its characteristic Kabbalistic puzzles. So, yeah, see right there. Unite by thine art so that all disappear is exactly basically what I was saying before we started this stream, and part of why you would want to learn and apply Kabbalah to your life. And this is, keep in mind too, this is Hermetic Kabbalah. So you've got the traditional Jewish Kabbalah where we get it from, and you'll encounter people who, you know, after having done Hermetic Kabbalah and then going to the Jewish Kabbalah, have found that, oh yeah, actually that's even way better. Me personally, I haven't barely dipped my toe in that water, so I can't say for sure. But I do know people who have done that, and also just encountered people online who fall into that category. But also plenty of others who are like, oh no, Hermetic is better. And then you've got Christian Kabbalah as well. So it can certainly be applied in anybody's life, as long as you get the understandings of that basic structure, that starting point. I point this out to show how my little study of the Holy Kabbalah proved of such great help when the time came and I needed to make use of it. I may remark that the poise and equilibrium which it gave me proved my salvation time and again in the most terrible ordeals, keeping my inner being balanced and calm amidst a maelstrom of conflicting forces, and enabling me to coordinate them into an orderly whole. Finally, it has led me to what I believe is the reconstruction of the original Kabbalistic plan. It explains the path indicated by the child Horus in the first Aether of the Vision and the Voice, obtained by Frater O.M. in 1909. And the Vision and the Voice was Crowley scrying the Enochian ethers, and him and his scribe reporting what all he got from all the different ethers. I'm actually going to read something to you all, like as one of those little Crowley side missions that was from one of those ethers, where he was given instructions for obtaining knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. I believe it was the eighth ether, but he actually turned that into a small book called Liber 8. So be on the lookout for that. That's coming real soon. Or maybe by the time you get this, it's already out. So there you go. Love you all. Here we go. I am dealing with these things in the appendix to this little book. How could I have guessed what the writing of it would lead to? I started with the idea of giving my students an outline of the system I had been using for years, the system whereby I was led to attain, by which, as had been amply proved, attainment is possible. Yet, suddenly, without effort, I am led to discover what appears to be a far simpler road on the same tree. 'Tis true, but by different paths. A road, the possibilities of which are yet to be discovered, but which may help humanity to regain the crown more easily than of yore. A system fulfilling the prophecies of the old as well as those of the new aeon. It is written in Liber Legis, all words are sacred and all prophets true, save only that they understand a little. All right. Need to get my little snipple hack in place. There, that ought to do it. Those who have faithfully endeavored to live up to the instruction, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, have indeed found this to be the straight and narrow way. This means that we must discover, each for himself, the will of God, the creative word, in the depths of our own being. By finding our true purpose and fulfilling it, and it alone, leaving others the freedom to find and fulfill theirs, we live in harmony with the universal will and movement of things, as stars in the body of Nuit, the mother of heaven. As we follow this way, we find our lives corresponding more closely with the universal life. We notice the great cyclic laws operative in us, as in all else. Events begin to occur which check up with astrological conditions. We find ourselves more and more at one with nature and nature's forces. Our inner being gives us light wherever we travel, and day by day we get closer to the central mystery of being till we can truly exclaim, I and my Father are one. These are some of the things that the new law has taught me, and for which I can never be too thankful to him who proclaimed it. Yep, thanks, Uncle Al. There is no fixity and sameness in this law. Each has a certain purpose, a certain part to play in the cosmic drama. No two wills are alike. Let us see to it that we never again foolishly try to break the will of another. The beauty of creation may only be understood through its great diversity. Never by trying to make all men express one set pattern or ideal can the plan of creation be realized. Nature ensures individual freedom through order. Remember that. This law does not lead to disorder and confusion, but to the only true order, wherein each unit, working according to the true will of the whole, makes his individual work an expression of himself as an unique part of that whole. Will is that which produces change, which is life. Stagnation or fixity is death. Therefore, fear not change, but embrace it with open arms. For all change is of the nature of love. Yeah, we learned that in Swami Vivekananda's Bhakti Yoga study. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's all love, which is the tendency of any two things to become one, thus losing themselves in the process. We must learn to rid ourselves of the illusionary idea of the little self as something distinct and separate from the great life around us. We must unite ourselves through love with larger and grander conceptions, thus building up for ourselves that house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. Yeah, he might say it in here, might not, but one of the transmissions from the Book of the Law, which came from, I'm pretty sure it was New Wheat, in the first part, where she says, I am divided for love's sake. But do we really build this? In a certain measure, yes, for it requires our willing cooperation. But the complete temple is potentially inherent in the substance of our own being. And the great architect is in every temple shrine, for he indeed is the master builder, and he builds from within outwards. Thus we expand into the body of Our Lady Nuit, even as she contracteth and holdeth all the parts of our temple firmly together. And that'll do it for chapter 9. In fact, she says, I am divided for love's sake, for the sake of union, if I remember right, is the whole quote. And what Sanskrit word means union? Pop quiz while I get a drink. Chapter 10, of the kingdom and of the bride. The last chapter may have appeared rather like a digression from our main treatise, but it may also prove a door leading us to discover the closed palaces of the king and queen. I have little more to add to what I have already outlined in the earlier chapters of this book, for I feel that I have placed in the hands of true students that which will enable them to obtain a grasp of the fundamental ideas of the Kabbalah, without overloading them with details, which can be taken up later at the pleasure of the inquirer. All right, the answer is yoga. Yoga means union. The path is a long one, whichever we whichever way we travel. Some say that it goes on forever, so that only those are happy who desire the unobtainable. But yesterday, today, and forever are all included in the here and now. At least, even in normal consciousness. All right, yeah, zero. You sent it in right at the exact time. Good work. I knew you would know. But that's all right. It's good to test ourselves. It's good. It's good to give ourselves those little pop quizzes. Okay. At least, even in normal circumstances, the past is past and we are the result of it. The future being determined by the present, let us act rightly now, and that will take care of itself. If we would obtain the fruits of the tree of life, we must be prepared to put in a little of this present time on the study of first principles. When we have a grasp of these, the rest will come in due course. For as I explained before, the hidden influence flows easily once the channels have been opened up. Now, a few further words in regard to the channels of Mesla or paths of the tree of life. I have hinted at another possible arrangement of these paths, for it is said, when the great serpent raised his head unto doth, knowledge, the child of Hokman Bina, his head was blasted. Therefore, is all knowledge piecemeal? We obtain a hint from the earliest Kabbalistic treatise, the Sefer Yetzirah, or Book of Formations. For it says, 10 are the numbers of the ineffable Sephiroth, 10 and not 9, 10 and not 11. Learn this wisdom and be wise in the understanding of it. Investigate these numbers and draw knowledge from them. Fix the design in its purity and pass from it to its creator seated on his throne. Again, Ritangelius gives replace the formative power upon his throne, and Postellus states restore the device or workmanship to its place. And they say also 11 is the number of evil. I think he even made a comment of that in that. I'm pretty sure it was that last chapter. Well, not the last one today, but yesterday's book, chapter 8, where he said 11, considering the 1 plus 1 being 2, however he worded it. Go back and check it out if you haven't. Go back and check it out again anyway, because it's one of those things you probably need to go over a few times and start applying to your Kabbalistic practice. Anyway, so we see there appears to have been some mystery to be cleared up in order to restore the temple of the Kabbalah to its true splendor. Now, let me give you a few hints from Liber Legis. Chapter 1, verse 49 reads, Abrogate are all rituals, all ordeals, all words and signs. Rahorquit hath taken his seat in the east at the equinox of the gods, and let Asar be with Issa, who also are one. But they are not of me. Let Asar be the adorant, Issa the sufferer. Hur in his secret name and splendor is the Lord initiating. 50. There is a word to say about the hierophantic task. Behold, there are 3 ordeals in one, and it may be given in 3 ways. The gross must pass through fire. Let the fine be tried in intellect, and the lofty chosen ones in the highest. Thus ye have star and star, system and system. Let not one know well the other. These are the words of Nui, Lady of the Starry Heavens. Again, she speaks in verse 57. All these old letters of my book are aright, but Zadi is not the star. This also is secret. My prophet shall reveal it to the wise. The old book is, of course, the book of Hermes or Tarot. The prophet did explain this change in his comment to Liber Legis. He might go on to explain about that, but that's that whole switch for the how the emperor becomes now Zadi, and then the star becomes Hey. Whereas before the Golden Dawn had the correspondence for the emperor being Hey and Zadi being the star, and that's where the as in where they those Hebrew letters go, the paths on the tree. Come, oh wait, hold on. Again, Hadith speaks in chapter 2, verse 2. Come, all ye, and learn the secret that hath not been revealed. I, Hadith, am the complement of Nu, my bride. I am extended, and Qobs, meaning a star, is the name of my house. Verse 3. In the sphere I am everywhere, the center. As she, the circumference, is nowhere to be found. Verse 4. Yet she shall be known, and I never. 5. Behold, the rituals of old time are black. Let the evil ones be cast away. Let the good ones be purged by the prophet. Then shall this knowledge go aright. And again in verse 34, but ye, O my people, rise up and awake. 35, let the rituals be rightly performed with joy and beauty. All this seems to point to a new order of things that will regenerate this kingdom so that the will of the highest may be done on earth as it is done in heaven. But how shall this be brought about? How shall Malkuth, the daughter, be raised to the throne of the mother and at last come to understand? It was prophesied through Frater Oem in the vision and the voice, eighth ether, unto him that understandeth at last do I deliver the secrets of truth in such wise that the least of the little children of the light may run to the knees of the mother and be brought to understand. So we need have no fear. The way is to be made plain, for one has understood at last. Therefore, in the words of Horace, the crowned child of the Aeon, first Aether, will I point out the way, for it is written, thou shalt laugh at the folly of the fool, thou shalt learn the wisdom of the wise, and thou shalt be initiate in holy things. And thou shalt be learned in the things of love, and thou shalt be mighty in the things of war, and thou shalt interpret the oracles, and thou shalt drive all these before thee in thy car. And though by none of these canst thou reach up to me, yet by each of these must thou attain to me, and thou must have the strength of the lion, and the secrecy of the hermit, and thou must turn the wheel of life, and thou must hold the balances of truth. Thou must pass through the great waters a redeemer. Thou must have the trail of the scorpion. Oh, excuse me, I must have the tail of the scorpion, and the poisoned arrows of the archer, and the dreadful horns of the goat. And so shalt thou break down the fortress that guardeth the palace of the king my son. And thou must work by the light of the star and of the moon and of the sun, and by the dreadful light of judgment that is the birth of the Holy Spirit within thee. When these shall have destroyed the universe, then mayest thou enter the palace of the queen my daughter. Thus, gentle readers, are we shown the way to the palace of the bride. Set ye out upon that never ending journey, each step of which is an unutterable reward, and ye shall have naught to complain of at the bride's reception. June 13th, 1922. And that is the end of the main part of the book. Sick. So if you weren't able to pick up on there at that last little bit, some of those tarot correspondences and the way he worded it of, let's see, where was it? And thou shalt drive all these before thee in thy car, and though by none of these canst thou reach up to me, yet by each of these must thou attain to me. Which, if you're asking me, is him saying that these are tools, but don't. It's the Zen finger pointing at the moon thing. You know what I mean? It's not the finger; it's the moon. All right. So appendices to Q.B.L or the bride's reception. We're under an hour, and I'm pretty sure that the first one wasn't way too long, so we might go ahead and do that today. Why not? Why not? So here it says, note, this appendix has purposely been left in the form of notes made by the author as certain new aspects of the Kabbalah were revealed to him. No attempt has been made to put these into good literary form or to draw together all the various conclusions into a complete whole. The student will find it necessary to use minute care in tracing out the different paths indicated, and it may be well to adopt the advice of Chongzhu as translated by Giles. Have no established mental criteria, and thus see all things as one. Yep, because once you start to get dogmatic about things, you miss the point. All right, so Appendix to Chapter 2, concerning the natural basis of correspondences in the Hebrew alphabet. It has been intimated that to the author that some of the Kabbalists consider the symbolic nature of the Hebrew letters, taken in their natural order, conceal a description of the creative process or natural cycle of generation. I have never seen this written of, but one might perhaps attempt to verify the notion and see if it has any foundation in truth. So, Aleph, the ox, the male generative power of the father. Bet, the house, that which shelters the womb of the mother. Gimel, the camel, one who carries water in its belly, therefore suggests that the mother is with child by the father and that it floats in the amniotic fluid. Dalet, the door, means of ingress and egress whereby the child makes its entrance into the world. Hey, the window, lets in light from outside, suggests that the child is brought to light. Vav, the nail, that which unites or joins the umbilical cord. Zain, the sword, that which severs the cord. Het, the fence, suggests an outside enclosure around the field or garden of the father, ox. Viz, the child lives within its parents' estates until Tet, the serpent, the sex force awakens at puberty. Yod, the hand, a natural symbol after recognition of sexual desire. Kaf, the palm of hand, obvious from last symbol. Lamed, the ox goad, desire goads him on towards the opposite sex. Mem, water, the symbol of the feminine. Noon, fish, seed. Samek, prop, erection. Oyen, eye, sees object of desire. Pe, mouth, expresses desire by kiss. Zadi, fishhook, that which wishes to draw forth fish, desire aroused in mate. Kuf, back of head, suggests one lying on back of head. Resh, head, suggests another head. Countenance beholds countenance. So staring into the eyes of the lover. Sheen, tooth, suggests to bite. Woman crushes serpent's head. Tau, which is tau or tau cross, Egyptian tau cross, instrument used to measure the depth of water in the Nile. Phallus in extension. Thus we see the cycle complete. The son acts as his father, Aleph, did before him. The daughter becomes the mother. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be. Amen. The above is capable of development along another and slightly different lines, according to the grade to which the student belongs and the aspect of the process to be symbolized. I have suggested the purely physical, since it would be a very natural one with the primitive peoples. The scheme is, and yeah, a very natural one still to this day, but yeah, definitely you could say with the primitive peoples. The scheme is possible of interpretation on other planes. So, no doubt, but I have kept entirely to the symbolic titles of the letters without using, for instance, their Yetziratic or tarot correspondences. Okay. Okay, Frater Achad. So you remember all these occultists are just a bunch of perverts. Just kidding. That's the process of creation, baby. That's God. All right, and so here he has some colored plates of the tree. This one we've already looked back to a couple times from earlier when it was referenced, the Minutium Mundum. Here we have plate 2, which shows us the supernal triad. Over here, plate 3, the second order. So everything across the abyss into the manifest existence from the supernal triad. Zero says, awesome how Hod has different color. Yeah, here, I'll show you. Want to see something cool? Check this out. I'll show you the king scale color correspondences for the tree. I might have, you know what? Maybe I swear I sent you a picture of them, but here, we'll just show them again anyway, because check it out. Now Hod becomes purple. In fact, a few spheres become purple. Doth gets that purple color. Chesed, Hod, and Yesod stays purple. Tiferet being pink, I find pretty cool. And then the white, blue, and red up here in the supernal triad of Kether, Hakma, Binah. Pretty awesome. But I'm pretty sure I sent you a picture of that already. But maybe I didn't, and I'm mistaken. All right, so I think he has a couple more. Oh, okay, just one more. So this one, plate 4, he's showing the third order. So all the tree. And I'm assuming that this behind it is the unmanifest, a way of illustrating that. But he doesn't really tell us, so we're left to guess. Zero says, even that. Or even dot. Yep, right. All right. So I think this appendix was the one that's pretty long. And it's but I think it also will finish up the book for us. So we'll probably save that for tomorrow. Yeah, this one's way long. This is like the longest thing in the whole book is this other appendix. But that's going to be something we'll want to save, especially now we're getting closer to that hour mark. Because that's going to be, this is where he's going to, I'm pretty certain, bust into the ways that he rearranged the paths, basically turned it upside down. And so that is something we'll probably want to deal with on its own for sure. But I thank you all for being here today and so far along with this book read. This one's been super fun. We got through the head scratcher and we're going to be on to another head scratcher. But it should be pretty fun. Zero says that fit perfect with last year Trav lecture about the 22 paths. Yeah, definitely. That book 2 of Gareth Knight's going into the paths, I think is going to be very important. Even for this book, this author Frater Achad says that the student should have a pretty solid understanding of the tree as it's traditionally taught and presented before getting into some of these other correspondences that may be kind of confusing. And I know William G. Gray, I haven't read that book, but I know from Trav talking about it that in his book, The Talking Tree, the one where he goes in on the paths, he has all his own type of correspondences too. So that book's on my to-do list, but man, I have a lot of books on my to-do list between this channel, between Trav, my Gnosis, and then also just in my free time. Boy, I got a lot of books. I didn't even keep track, but I read so many books the last few years, last year especially. Holy heck. But it's good. That's good. That'll be beneficial to us, especially if we're actually applying what we read instead of just collecting a bunch of knowledge. But I know you are Zero. Once you're goddess, I know still kicking it here for sure. Her other people within this group, even if it's a small group, I know just about everybody here is really putting this into practice, and that's exactly what you want to do. Zero says, "Thank you." Or thanks to you, J Baldo. This is really awesome and useful. You all have the great books. It's a blessing to be able to learn from you. Well, thank you. You too. I learn a lot from you as well by just having you hang out and our conversations on the side. So thank you. And I think that is going to do it for today, though. So much love to you all for being here. I'll see you tomorrow, most likely, to finish this up. But like I said, I want to also read Liber 8 because I want to start bringing more Holy Guardian Angel information as well because that's just so very important. So, and it's so short, so I might pop on like later this evening to do a read of that. It'll probably take like 20 minutes, a half hour. I don't know. It should be a pretty quick one, like Liber 3 was. And that's how we're going to get down. So, thank you all. Gil Cap 3 says, "Why am I invisible?" Well, this is the first time I've seen you, so if you mean invisible in the chat, I'm not sure. And if you mean invisible in general, maybe you're a ghost and you figured out how to use YouTube Live's chat feature. That's going to cost a lot of energy. You got to be careful. If you're a ghost, you don't want to be spending up too much of your energy on stuff like that unless, well, actually, maybe you do, and maybe this is the exact way you want to be spending it up. Who am I to say how you should spend up your ghost energy? All right, Gil Cap 3. Well, I'm glad to see you here. Thank you for joining us. Too bad we're wrapping up now, but hey, go catch the replay. Maybe this Kabbalah will help you in your adventures as a ghost or as an actual human being. I'm not really sure. You're the one who's asking me why am I invisible, and I have zero clue as to why. But it's good to see you here, nonetheless. All right, that's enough of that. Much love to you all. Thank you all for being here. This has been J.B.L and Frater Achad's Q.B.L. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye bye. GilCap3 says, "Cause I'm the sun." Yeah, facts. Absolutely. I'm glad you recognize that. All right. Bye bye.